Well, to me, the one thing that's common with the top guys is they know how to hide outside coverage, and he's really good at that. He knows he knows how to hide, and then comes into the scoring area when the puck's coming there. And you see a lot of guys that bulwark it in the front of the net, or they work from the slot. But Leon doesn't play that way. He comes into the scoring areas as the shot's coming in there, so he's hard to locate. And he scored so many goals this year where, he's arriving as the puck's going towards the net. So he's in a better position than the guys defending, because the guys defending have lost coverage. And to me, that's the biggest common denominator, is that you can't find these guys because they know how to hide. And any of the guys that I've had that are unique scorers like that's a common trait.
Ken, you got Zach Kassian right now, who's moved up. For the last few years, he's been a bottom six guy, and he says it's very different mentality when you're bottom six. You dump it in, you kind of crash and bang. Here, it's more of a possession, especially when he plays with Connor and Leon. When you see a player kind of just have to adjust to a different style like that impress you as a coach, and is that a work in progress to see a guy like that? Do you see Kassian as somebody who could be like a good complementary top six guy potentially?
Well, when you put a guy in that situation, you don't really know how it's going to turn out. So you're taking basically a territorial player where you play bottom six, that's a territorial game, to a possession game where you don't want them to dump it. Basically, once they cross the blue line, you want them to make a play. And some guys, you don't know if they can do that. Now, he's got more puck patience than people thought. So we're not trying to coach that out of him. So we're letting him play with that, and we're trusting his judgment on the ice. I think what he's surprised everybody with is his ability to make plays in traffic. He doesn't panic. So if he continues to progress, then there's lots of stories about players at his age that have elevated their game to become a top six player. But the part that's really changed is that we don't want him to dump the puck unless he can't get the line. If he gets the line, we want him making a play every time. And that's also the responsibility, whether he's playing with Leon or with Connor or whatever. He's expected to make a play and keep the puck as much as we can.
Ken, Leon was saying that he still doesn't consider himself a natural goal scorer. What do you make of that? And just maybe where it's coming from?
Well, to me, natural goal scorers, he's approaching that stage because natural goal scorers score off the rush. Guys that have career years once in a while, or they get a 30-goal season or a 35-goal season, and then they're down to 15, they got to score in zone. But he scores off the rush. 2-on-1 goal in Buffalo, perfect example. That's not teachable. We could sit there and practice 2-on-1s with some of our guys, nothing against them, but for a long time, and it's not going to change. But you give him a 2-on-1, and eight times out of 10, even at practice, it's in the net. And so those are, to me, if you look at all the top scorers in the league right now, they all have that same common trait where if you give them a breakaway, you give them a 2-on-1, or they're on a 3-on-2, 9 times out of 10, they're going to get a quality chance every time, and he does that.
Ken, you referenced after the Buffalo game that you need to play as patient at home as you have been on the road. Where does that patience start for you? Is that
in checking?
Peter's playing that way?
No, it's in checking. It's in this term I always use: work for space rather than look for space. And we've been guilty at home of looking for space rather than fighting for space. When we go on the road, we're willing to stay with it. We're willing to work. We're willing to have that type of disposition on the ice. And that's what we've got to see here is these are going to be, it doesn't matter right now if you're in the playoffs or out of the playoffs. You're either fighting for a playoff spot or you're fighting for a job. Either way, these are all like single elimination playoff games. You look at all the games on television last night, there was some great hockey. And some teams are in and some teams are out. And some teams are auditioning young players. Like you watch what the Rangers are doing. They gave Dallas fits yesterday. They were a really good team yesterday. New Jersey's missing 6 guys. They go in and take it to a shootout. those are the games you're going to have to play in. And for us, our best game is when we check. Check for chances, check for scoring opportunities, check to keep the puck. And when we have that attitude, we're good. And that's what I want to bring from the road to home is just stay with that part of the game. And I really believe with this team, the harder we check, the more we score. And I think we've proven that over time here.
Maybe share something that you've learned about Leon now as an insider in the organization as opposed to before when you were an outsider and just observing all the time?
I would say the number one thing I've learned is how good a stick he has. I think he disrupts plays, knocks down pucks, traps you, hides his stick as good as anybody in the league. You know, and to play like that at 22 years of age, pretty impressive because it's not common for a young guy to be able to do that. We scored a goal on the road where he hit his stick in the neutral zone and stabbed one. It was actually in Columbus, in the neutral zone forecheck. You can't teach that stuff. You know, that's natural instincts. He hit it, sucked the guy in, and then ended up on that 2-on-1 give and go with Connor. That's not coachable. You can practice that all day. That to me is what surprised is in both Connor and Leon's game is the maturity with their stick is way above their age and bodes well moving forward.
Ken, it looked like Lucic left the ice early in laboring back or rib. Anything you can tell us about that?
He's had a sore hip for a couple of weeks, and he tweaked something there, but he'll be fine. He'll be ready to go tomorrow.
And just further to Draisaitl, he was practicing his one-timer at the end of practice and at great length, taking pucks in his feet, on his backhand, getting it to his forehand. What does that say about the type of pro he is in trying to work on those sorts of things?
Well, he was not only out there at the end of practice, he was out there 15 or 20 minutes early too. So that's what I meant by hiding outside of coverage. Where he was shooting the puck from is not where normal coverage is. So he's trying to basically create game-like situations from seam plays. And, you know, like I said, not many people, most people would just stand in the slot and practice. He practices hiding outside the coverage, but you got to get the shot away in a hurry. And it's not going to be perfect. It's never going to be on your tape. And he's been practicing that, and it's paid dividends for him.
Ken, obviously you've had some good offense from a few guys lately, but your team defense, if you can't limit goals, it's going to be hard to win. Sekera comes back, Klefbom. Is it just a coincidence or having those two? What have they helped to your overall team, maybe specifically Sekera, even though he's not playing a lot of minutes? In the minutes he's playing, what do you feel he's done to help calm your team defensively?
Well, we just got the analytics on it this morning on the last 10 or 12 games since those guys been back in. And it's black and white. It's simple. We spend so much less time in our zone now than we did before. We're not stuck in the zone. We're not defending extra time. We're top 5 in the league at getting out on exits under pressure. We spend the least time. I think there's maybe 2 teams better than us in the league who spend less time than we do in our zone. So when you don't spend any time in your zone and you get out, not necessarily clean every time, but you get out on first touch, that's a good thing. The other thing they do better than, and that feeds into the rest of the young players, is that they create separation out of coverage. In other words, you're in coverage, and a lot of times when you get the puck, the first thing you do is rim it or just feed it somewhere else. Well, you're still stuck in coverage. They skate it out of those areas, and they buy us time to get open for them. That's composure, and then that composure is feeding into other people. So to me, when you've got composed veteran players like those 2 guys are, they allow you to spend less time in your own zone, and more important, they get you out of coverage the first go and not stick you back into coverage. And that's what was happening before. We had all kinds of effort before, but we kept sticking ourselves back in coverage, and we get a lot of goals against getting worn down. And now we don't. We're out right away.
Ken, the majority of your remaining games are going to be at home, and some of the guys were kind of saying that that's obviously a good thing. But they were also talking about the crowd. It's a highly educated hockey crowd, fan base that comes out, and the building can get pretty quiet at times. Do you notice any kind of challenges for the players kind of playing in front of this crowd?
Well, our group knows that feeling. I mean, we know when all eyes are on us, we're going to have to embrace it. We can't run and hide from it. It's not going to change. As bad as we want it, I think there's 18,000 people that want it even more. And we're going to have to embrace that. And we can look at home as being an advantage because we get to practice, we get to sleep in our own beds, we're comfortable that way, but we can't put out the same game and expect a different result. We got to come and compete and work and check. And if we do that, then I like our chances every night. Now, there's going to be some really tough games coming here. The one tomorrow night is going to be as tough as ever. And we know that. And the one on Saturday is going to be even tougher. But for me, if we do that checking stuff that we're capable of, we'll get enough goals and we'll limit the opposition big time because we're capable of playing that game. We've got 4 lines that know how to play that game. We've shown the ability to just take the wind out of everybody's sails on the opposition. We've done that before, and I see no reason why we're not going to keep going. We've been doing this now for 12 or 14 games. I don't see that we're not going to keep it up. I think we're going to make that decision tomorrow. He looked great today, especially early in the practice when he was flying. But him and us, we've asked to see how he works through the day. And if he comes and he feels good again tomorrow, then we're going to put him in. So we'll see. But this was the first full go with the group. He's been skating quite a bit for the last 10 days, but always on his own. They put him through a real hard workout yesterday, and he came back feeling fine today. But today, we'll see how he feels in the morning, Jim. If he feels good, then we're going to put him in for sure.
Last thing on Brodziak, he's in and out of the lineup. Last game, more like guys played 900 games. So what changes from game to game?
A phone call. He got a phone call from a friend. So, and it helped. So, an old friend.